But first, let's meet Parentology's Parents of the Week.
Hi, I'm Wendy Stadnyk, mother of 2 boys. My oldest son, Luke, is now in heaven watching over his younger brother and I, and he's doing a great job. My youngest son's name is Sam, and he's now 13.
Hi, I'm Tracy Sabattis. I'm the mom of a 20-year-old Aspie who's in college, and watching him grow into a young man has been a wonderful experience.
Parenting can be challenging, but one of the most challenging things a parent can face is raising a child with a disability. Sometimes you feel like running away, other days you just get frustrated because you're not getting the support you need. Joining me today are Wendy Stadnyk and Tracy Sabattis. Thank you so much for joining me today to share your experience. You're both parents, you both raised children with disability, and Wendy, you lost your son
10 years ago that I lost him. We had him for about 6.5 years.
Let's talk about your experience, your challenges, your struggles, everything that you went through.
I had a lot of support in that respect. I mean, from age 6 months on. I don't know what's offered today. I hope they still offer as much as I had.
And your son had Down syndrome?
He had Down syndrome, trisomy 21.
Did you find out as soon as you were pregnant?
Yeah, well, as soon as the amniocentesis was completed. And it was devastating because as a mom, you know, he has a younger brother, I have a younger son who was born without any disabilities, and he's an athlete and he's an honor student, and I can't stop him from moving. It's perpetual motion. Whereas Luke had trouble moving. He was very low muscle tone and he couldn't even pedal a tricycle. He'd get very frustrated. So there were challenges in that respect.
When did you find out?
Well, we knew something was wrong early. Coincidentally, he has Asperger's syndrome, but at the time he had some speech delays due to ear infections, chronic ear infections. So we were fortunate to get him into special education preschool, which was a fabulous program. And working with them, we continued to realize there was something different. And in elementary school, we started seeking diagnoses. We probably went to 3, 4 different psychiatrists and psychologists before they settled on Asperger's. I mean, he was diagnosed with ADHD and a host of other things.
When it comes to discipline, you know, being strict, because now you're dealing with different children, how was that for you compared to, you know, seeing your friends with kids? They didn't have to go through that.
We used a program which I swear by, I don't even know if it's in use now, but is 1, 2, 3 Magic.
Well, I had to learn sign language to communicate with him.
What have been the biggest challenges so far?
For us, it's been in the educational setting. You know, keep working with we were very fortunate. Our school system was great. You know, the teachers, and we ended up with a really, really strong support team. He had a one-on-one aide up until 11th grade. Which we probably, in hindsight, probably should have backed that off a little sooner, because executive functioning skills and independence at college has proven to be a challenge. But it's been very, you know, because Asperger's kids, if they sit down and they speak with an adult, often come across as very intelligent, very together. It's all these other hidden things that people take for granted, you know, following a schedule, keeping on top of things.
One of the biggest challenges was keeping him healthy. He had a very, very low immune system, so he loved being in school and around other kids, even though he couldn't keep up with them, but he'd come home every Friday sick, just really, really sick. And it'd take me, you know, 2 or 3 days to get him back on his feet so he was well enough to go back to school, and he'd be back home sick again.
Society, your friends, your family, were they supportive also, or did they look at them differently?
We chose to separate the discussion of Justin and Asperger's from the family because there was a lot of concern about labeling and some things that you hear from other people, and some not accepting that he has a condition or a situation. So that was always a little bit of a challenge, and has continued to be a challenge actually today. Where, you know, now he's articulate, he's a young man, and he says, hey, I have Asperger's, I have OCD, I mean, this is what I have.
I think I had to first educate myself because I didn't know anything about Down syndrome. And then I needed to educate my family, because sometimes people say things that, you know,
Not too nice.
they just make, yeah, they make you a little crazy. So educating family first, and then sometimes strangers second, was.
Did you actually have to deal with that from strangers, for example? If you went somewhere, and would people look at you different?
Absolutely.
Would they say anything to you?
Not usually say anything, but they look at Luke, and then they look at me like, what did you do wrong so that your child is like this? What did you do wrong? And so people are just ignorant, or they'd be afraid to touch him, like it was contagious. You know, I don't want to catch anything from him.
What are some tips that you want to give to parents that are going through this, things that have helped you in your situation?
Just love that child and treat them as much like any other child that you would have. They do need discipline, and they do need hugs, and they need to be cared for like any other child. So try to keep that in perspective. You don't want your disabled child to go out in the world and be an absolute monster because you were afraid to say no to them.
I completely agree with that. That's an excellent point. I mean, we really focused on, you know, when he was younger, the 1, 2, 3 magic. We really focused on consistency and discipline. Tried to treat him like, you know, if he's a kid and he got in trouble, he got in trouble. Right. You know, because, hey, he's got to go out into the world, and life's not going to give him any special breaks just because he has Asperger's. You know, that was something that we really focused on. And then from an educational standpoint, I think it's really important to educate yourself as much as possible on the law and, you know, least restrictive environment, and work with your IEP team, work with your school.
Okay. Anything else you would like to add?
I'd say don't push them. Don't try to make them normal if they're not. Accept them for who they are, and just let them make accomplishments in their own strides, and accept that as your reward.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you. And if you would like to know more about raising a child with a disability, or if you have a question for Wendy or Tracy, just log on to my website, parentologywithpaula.com.
Coming up, is your child tired and cranky during the day because he or she is refusing to go to bed at night? I'll be talking to a parenting expert that will give you some tips to help make the bedtime process stress-free for you and your child.